Good people, I hope you're well. It has been long since we last had this kind of conversation where I'm in front of the camera and I record the little that I have or I've gathered in the past few months or so. I've been reading a lot of books. Currently, I'm busy with this one, Towards Meaningful Life, The Wisdom of the Rebbe. So this is rabbi of the Hasidis, what you call Chabad movement. And this wonderful book, The Way of God, or Derech Hashem in Hebrew. Quite a fascinating book, to be honest. Its content is very much based on the Kabbalistic view in life. Don't worry if you don't know what is Kabbalah, but quite a very important book for one to have. Very simple to understand, straight to the point, but very fascinating. And so on these two books, I was reading something very important on the subject of men. And they touch on some very interesting point. They make some interesting point on both books, but the underlying theme seems to be the same, and the points that they're raising, you can tell that both are Jewish learned people here. And because these two books are based on the Jewish tradition and what has been recorded by the sages of the past, and so they borrow some ideas from there, and hence the content seems to be almost the same. The interesting thing is they approach the same topic from little different angles, but it's very interesting. So yeah, Derech Hashem, I think I've read it 4 to 5 times. I've listened to it in my car when I'm driving so many times because, it's fascinating. So let's talk. Men. We know that when you go to the book of Bereshit, chapter 1, from verse 26, 27, there, let us make men in our own image after our own likeness. And God then proceeded to create men. And there's something very important that we need to understand about men. I think in order for us to understand the things that we go through in life, we have to understand, firstly, what is man and what is man made up of. If we can understand this whole thing, then we will be able to understand all the things that man goes through in life. And so man is made up of 2 elements, and these 2 elements are the body and the soul. And you will actually notice that throughout creation, God, may he be blessed, he sort of like divided his creation into sort of like 2, right? He created both. If you go to Isaiah, is it 45 verse 7? I can't remember, but you see that God in there will say it that he himself create good and form darkness, and he creates life and he creates evil. So God created what you call evil inclinations and the good inclinations, and in between he puts men with something very important, that is a freedom of choice. So on this side there's evil, this side there's good, in between there's man with freedom of choice. As I've said it in the past, what would be the point of saying you've created the freedom of choice when you have only created one side, the good side? What is there for men to choose if there's only one side? So both good and evil are there because of God. And maybe just to give you some more information on this. This side of evil is actually the concealment of God or the hiddenness of God. Let me give you this an explanation that I've gathered from one of the books that I was reading, saying what is good, and then they explain good as the presence of God. That presence, or the presence of the light of God, automatically makes that environment or whatever to be good. And then you will probably then say evil is the absence of God, but it's not that way. Evil is the hiddenness of God. God is everywhere. But the moment you fail to recognize His presence, that then breeds evil. And I always make an example as saying, if you were to find yourself in a synagogue, or for many people who are used to church, it will be very difficult for you to do any evil acts in that environment. But if you were to find yourself maybe in a tavern, in a club, or any place that the presence of God is not easily felt, people get to do what they couldn't even do in the other environments like church, synagogue, or even mosque. So it's not like God is not there, but the hiddenness of His presence makes the environment to be evil. The more God is hidden, the more evil prevails. Our duty is to bring God into this world through the good deeds and kind acts of kindness. By bringing God into this world through our actions and other things that can be that can reveal God's presence. He's everywhere. So, as I said, so we've got evil, we've got good, we've got freedom of choice in between. So there are these two sides. If you go even to the book of Genesis, you will see that there is a tree of knowledge of good and evil, and there is the tree of life. There's these two representing the good and the evil, and we've got Adam and Eve, or Adam and Hava being in between, having to make a decision. God gave us a freedom of choice. For it to come and be a reality, we need these two sides. So now let's go back to what I was saying. So when God created man, He created man with two elements: the material and the transcendent element. The transcendent element is the soul, and the body becomes the material that is earthly, material from this world. And these two, they want completely two different things. The transcendent soul comes from God. God breathed into man, and this breath that we are talking about is actually the soul. And then into this body that it comes from the dust of the ground. So the soul, transcendent, always wants to connect with where it comes from. And the body always wants to connect with where it comes from. And so they are always fighting each other. The body wants material, wants earthly things. The body wants to sleep, the body wants to eat, the body wants to have sex, the body wants to all these things. And understand me very well, all these things are not evil. What's very interesting is God also has given us the ways of us being able to achieve these material things that are required by the body. The body, it's material. It requires material things. You know, the house, going to work, the car, all these things. It's what the body craves for. But the transcendent soul is not interested in this. The soul is not material, does not really care about the material. It cares about spiritual things, things that are more transcendent, things that are here. The body wants things that are here. And there's that constant fighting between the two. And this is intentional that God has done this. And as a human being, your duty is to train yourself and train your body to be subject to the soul, of which is more transcendent, and bring the body and this body into the control of the soul. Let me ask you a question. Haven't you been in a situation where no matter how hard you surround yourself with material things, you still feel that void within you? You know, you feel this void, you go, you buy a most beautiful car, a most expensive car, the most expensive house, most expensive, watch or whatever. But the void is not going anywhere. And here's the reason why you find yourself in that situation. With material things, you are feeding the body. With having 10 wives, whatever, you are feeding the body. Eating the most expensive food, you are feeding the body. Having to sleep 10 whatever hours, it's all about the body. But if you neglect the soul, then you always feel that void. The rabbi here in the book says, it's actually the soul crying out to you, saying, I am starving. You have been feeding, taking care of the body, but you don't take care of me. And therefore, just like how you react when the body signals to you that, look, I'm now hungry, I need food. The same way you have to do with the soul. You cannot neglect the soul. You need to feed the soul. And then the question comes, how do I feed the soul? The soul can be fed in this way. Number one, by connecting with the Most High through prayer. Through prayer, you feed the soul. Number two, through the studying of the Torah. You study the Torah, you feed the soul. So the reason why God gave the Torah to the world was the way of feeding the soul. The soul always wants these transcendent things, always crying for these things. And by feeding the soul through prayer, through the study of the Torah, and the acts of kindness, you are feeding the soul. I've heard a very wonderful saying where people, one rabbi was saying, if you are in need, of money, go and give others money. Give that which you need. You will in return be given. Do not wait until you are a millionaire before you can start giving to charity. Start now, because if you are waiting for that time when everything is perfect, you will never ever get to that point. You'll never. And so, what I'm saying to you is the acts of kindness. Go out there and do what is good without expecting anything in return. Without expecting anything. The moment you do anything with expectation of receiving something in return, is no longer acts of kindness. It's no longer charity. Go out there, do acts of kindness with literally zero expectation in return. Those are the things that feeds the soul, satisfies the souls. And so, when the soul is sick, it can express itself through many ways, through anxiety, stress, and any other ways that many people think maybe, then relate these problems with other things. Sometimes they are related with those other things, but most of the time it's because the soul has been crying out and saying, you have neglected me. And unfortunately, another thing that is quite important for the soul is bitachon, trust. Bitachon is quite important. Trust in God. I've said it before, trust. It's something that is quite easy to say and say to people, trust in God. But when the opportunity presents itself for you to practice the trust in God, then that's where you will see that this is quite a challenge. When you have mastered to trust in God and understand that God runs the world and everything in this world is controlled by Him. And number two, that He has promised us that, He wants the best for us. Number three, we are His creation. Number four, He loves us. Leave everything to God, because you stressing and you trying to be in control of everything, you will always be depressed. You will always find yourself with anxiety, because as soon as you see that you are not in control of something, that will always stress you. And then, and the unfortunate part is that people end up killing themselves, because of this feelings that they have, or they call it mental illnesses. But if we look deep into them, it's actually the soul crying out for help and saying, I'm not of this world, I'm from above, and I'm trapped, I'm hungry, I'm starving, you don't take care of me, and then because we do not understand how man was created, we don't diagnose the symptoms correctly. But if we understand that man has got two elements, a transcendent soul and the body that is earthly, and both have got needs that needs to be attended to. Until we understand that, we'll always get things wrong and come with a wrong solution to the problem. Remember that the body is transcendent and the body is earthly. Both requires completely different things. We should not neglect the one over the other. We should take care of both of them. It is not seen what the body requires. God made the body with those needs. And the soul also on the other side has got its own needs. Let's not only focus on the needs of the body and neglect the needs of the soul. Let me an example. Here's a time for you to pray. The body says, I'm tired. The soul says, I need to connect with where I come from, with the source. And the body says, I am tired. I worked the whole day. I did this and that, and I am tired. Until you train your body to be subject to the soul, you will always not find a way of subjecting it and being able to pray even in that environment. And I'm telling you, you then don't listen to your body and you take time to pray. After praying, you look back and like, I was so tired 5 minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. For some reason now, I'm like, I'm fine. What happened? Learn to subject your body to the transcendent soul. In so doing, the soul will be in control. And when the soul is in control, it will then use the body in order to do all these acts of kindness and all these things that are heavenly, that are transcendent. Because now the soul that is earthly is in control of the soul that is transcendent. And the body now, because it's in control, it's controlled by the soul, it does that which is good. And as we do good, we reveal the presence of God. And by so doing, the world gets covered by goodness and acts of kindness. But if we do not do that, and we allow this body to draw the soul with it down, then the body becomes the controlling element that controls the soul. In so doing, you pull the soul down with the body, and now it's subject to the body, and in so doing, you are corrupting the soul. You are corrupting the soul. And when the soul is sick, it then comes out as the forms of mental illnesses and other forms that can be very extreme. So please, let's always try by all means to allow the soul to connect with where it comes from, and allow the soul to be in control of the body. In so doing, you will have a healthy life that is full of acts of kindness, and charity being the most important things, that you will learn that some of our sins that we commit can only be forgiven if we do the acts of kindness and charity. I hope this small video has inspired you to some extent to start looking at this in a different way. Do not neglect the soul. Do not only focus on the body. I thank you.